my name is Craig, here with David, Matt, Juliana, and Jake. We're going to talk about performance and how it relates to human resource management. I'm specifically going to talk about the feedback aspect of performance. Okay, the importance of feedback. Feedback's important for successful performance because it lets employees know how they're doing. So if they're doing good, the manager will let them know, and they can keep doing the same thing. If they're doing bad, they'll know, and they'll be able to fix it. So steps for feedback, there's 3 steps: ongoing feedback and coaching, interim reviews, and obtaining and documenting feedback. Interim reviews are what most people think of when they hear feedback. Ongoing feedback and coaching is basically when your boss would pretty much come up to you and just let you know, hey, you're doing good, hey, you're doing not that good, you should probably work on it. It's not formal, periodic, and it's commenting on both good and bad behaviors. Next is interim reviews. This is basically the opposite of the ongoing feedback step. It's formal planned meetings that happen usually in the middle of the performance cycle, which could be a month, a year, really any time period, depending on the company. Obtaining and documenting feedback. It's direct observations done by your manager, third-party reports, which is like a coworker or like a customer commenting on your performance, or self-assessments, which you rate yourself on how you're doing. Some things to consider is, one is be specific. Feedback works best when it's related to a specific goal, and you have to make sure that you specify exactly what the employee did well or not so well. Next is timeliness. When a problem arises, make sure you address it right away. Don't hold off, because if the problem escalates, there could be a lot of trouble for the company and sometimes lawsuits. And when a goal is met, give the employee positive feedback right away. Next is manner. Give feedback in a positive way. Even if you're criticizing the employee, make sure you word it in a way that's not gonna demoralize the employee. Also talk about what the employee did well first, and then talk about improvements that should be made. Ways to deal with poor performance. Describe the concerning behaviors, consequences the behavior has in the business, actions that will be taken if it happens again, and provide resources for the employee to help him or her change the behavior. Also, give the employee a chance to voice their concerns. So if they might have an underlying reason why whatever happened, make sure the conversation is private and without distraction, and make yourself clear on what the next step is going to be. And I'm going to focus on ways to improve giving performance reviews. There are 3 ways. The first way is to focus more on collaboration. Second is to improve organizational skills. And the third is to build a system of open communication. All right, focusing on collaboration. So technology allows for easy collaboration between employees and managers. The best way in a big corporation would be to use information systems to make sure that everyone gets all the information. It makes everything just more organized. Improving organization. Poor organization leads to messy performance reviews. As a manager, you have to make sure you follow all the steps to observe and evaluate the performance of the employee, and make sure the information you have is accurate and truthful. Building open communications. That's key to a successful business. Clearly state what's to be expected from the employees and let him or her voice their opinions also. And having an open door policy is important, so employees can go to the boss and with any concerns right away. And next is surveys. Surveys are a way for employees or managers to give their opinions on topics such as the job, company, managers, other employees, rules, etc. And they're usually anonymous, but they aren't always anonymous. This is a sample of a very basic survey of a manager to employees. So they might ask how effective he or she is at the job, how often they meet their deadlines, and how hardworking they are, for example. Right, new and you. So my first job was a server at a restaurant called Nani's Touch of Pasta. Here we never really ever got performance reviews or anything, so you kind of never know how you did. So you have to just guess if you're doing good or bad. And now I'm a server every Tuesday, and every June we get performance evaluations, and we sit with the manager, go through a checklist of exactly what we did good and bad, and we also have periodic surveys about specific topics. Next is David for performance evaluation.
Hi, my name's David, and I'm doing performance evaluation today. So I'm going to first talk about why performance evaluation is important. So why is performance evaluation important? It's designed to meet many organizational and individual needs, and it also determines things such as your salaries, your promotions, and transfers and denominations and terminations. It's a means of assessing and communicating job performance status, and it can be used as a basis for supervisors to coach and counsel the employee. It also identifies performance deficiencies so that they can be addressed. The process of evaluations. If a company's policy specifies that the time interval for an evaluation is like a specific time, then it should be done within then, because otherwise late evaluations can give employees, people, the documents required to complete evaluation should be requested ahead of time from other departments, such as attendance and punctuality records, sick record leaves, sales records, daily or weekly call records, and output reports. Supervisors should then review an employee's job description before starting the evaluation. They should determine whether the employee's official job description still is accurate and whether it reflects their key responsibilities. Supervisors should then review the employee's file again to note patterns of behavior, continuing incidents of misconduct, and poor performance. They should review employees' goals from previous evaluations, and if you have a new supervisor in, then they should review the previous ones. It's essential that supervisors document problematic behavior, not the reason why the behavior exists. It's irrelevant facts that you should include are things such as single parenthood, divorce, medical issues, and finance problems. Focusing on your performance is key when drafting an evaluation. You should be specific and avoid general statements, and you should set measurable goals. Increasing sales by 20% in the next 6 months is much better than saying work harder or have more enthusiasm. You should focus on what you want your employees to do, not what you want them to be, because we can't change employees' personality traits. You should objectively state what is expected instead of saying be friendly or say reduce customer complaints by 50%. While drafting the evaluation, you should use concrete details such as names, numbers, and dates. You should be specific in what is expected and the date is expected by. Instead of documenting incidents where the employee's attitude was bad, you should just document their improper behavior. You should use action verbs, not passive verbs in the evaluation. Saying deadlines will be met is meaningless. Instead say that the employee will meet 90% of his deadline this quarter. It's more action-oriented, concrete, and measurable. So a lot of companies use SMART criteria to do their performance evaluations, and that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. I'm going to describe each one of them as the slides go on. So the first one's specific. The goal should define specific results and provide concrete details on what's to be achieved. Starting writing a monthly department newsletter is more specific than saying improve your interdepartmental communication. The second one, measurable, is you should define how you and your manager can measure success. You can do that through behavior, which is observable changes, quantity, which is a numerical increase or decrease, or quality, which is how well you meet the criteria in your goal. Attainable means that the goals should be challenging and go beyond your day-to-day duties, while at the same time they should be achievable, and they should also be realistic. You should state the results that need to be achieved rather than the activity or work processes leading to those results, and you should focus on what you're responsible for accomplishing. The last one, time-bound, you should establish a time limit, and you should state the date by which the results must happen, and how often the goal or expectation is to be met, and how often it will be reviewed. Some stereotypes that happen during the evaluation process include the halo rater, which is an employee is always considered a superstar, but they're never actually given any feedback to improve. And then there's the pitchfork rater, where a supervisor unfairly targets a specific employee and always says their downfalls, basically. And then there's the centralist rater, where it rates all employees in the middle of the performance spectrum, but not everyone can be in the middle of meeting expectations. And then there's the length of service bias rater, which pretty much says that your amount of time that you've been at the place is what your work is based off of. And that reflects mine because I've been working at Home Goods for the past 4 years, and since I've been there for so long, the company actually uses that when looking at how my performance is. And then I've also seen the centralist rating before, where people have been people have actually quit the job because they weren't actually rated right. And now I'm going to pass it to Matt.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm going to talk about some modern examples of performance evaluations in the workplace. In 2010, the government passed a major act that reformed performance evaluations in government organizations. They tried to take a more traditional route and use tried methods because these organizations, they don't focus on profits, they focus more on staying within their budget. All the organizations that you're going to see behind me, they tried to analyze their organizational structure and figure out how they can tailor their evaluations to maximize efficiency. In each of these organizations, it was important to establish frequency of meetings and establish long-term goals. For example, the FAA, they have 5-year periods where they try to maximize flight safety, air capacity, and things like that. In these more traditional evaluation settings, communication is important. For the Veteran Affairs Department, they have to really communicate to all the way down the chain from their performance evaluations because they have to get veterans to the doctors every 30 days and things of that nature. The IRS was also a unique case. They promote their employees from within so they get to really know the evaluation process and they know what to expect so they can focus more on their job. You can see this was the government really making an effort to focus on the future. They want to use human resources to push the future programs such as education and energy efficiency to more efficient processes. Now, before I can tell you about how more modern performance evaluations are being done, I have to tell you why they're happening. And that reason is the millennials. There are 54 millennials in the workforce right now. They're poised to be the highest performing group of the workforce and also the most high maintenance. Millennials know what they want, which is why they're forcing organizational changes. They want constant feedback and direction about their job, not a once-a-year meeting. And for better or worse, they want this feedback on a screen. Millennials are very different from older generations. They're more sociable, self-confident, and innovative. However, they care about their own passions and giving back to the community. They're not motivated by money. As you can see by the stats that are going to come up behind me, most corporations are trying to figure out how they can motivate and engage their millennials to keep them within the organization and not have to waste money on turnover rates and training new employees. And that's going to lead into the next case study. That's going to be about GE. We talked about Jack Welch in this class before. He was always a champion of HR, and he was really big on his people and ranking his people. And that created a very competitive but successful organizational culture in GE. But times had to change for GE. The workforce changed. They got younger and more talented. And the current CEO, Jeff Immelt, he pushed for radical change in his evaluations. He does it via a smartphone app. The app promotes more constant feedback between the managers and employees. It throws out the numerical structure of the previous regimes. And now the company says it went from command and control to connection and inspiration. Innovation is over everything. However, there's still the issue of the older employees in the organization. They're forced to use the app and claim it doesn't fairly distribute the pay. But millennials don't seem to really care about that. 80,000 employees use the app right now, and within the next year, all 300,000 employees will be using the app for their performance appraisals. And then next up is Adobe. Donna Morris is another forward-thinking executive. She actually crowdsourced their evaluation process called the check-in process. What the check-in process does is it lets employees and managers set a goal at the start of the year, and then every 8 weeks they check in with their boss about their progress. There's no HR involved in this at all. Then annually there's a rewards check-in where the managers hand out raises and bonuses based on the performance and meeting these goals. And there's been a lot of positive results from these changes for Adobe. Team stress and infighting is down. Employee morale has been greatly boosted. Turnover rates are way down, and the stock prices and revenue are way up. Next I'm going to talk about New and You. For anyone that doesn't know, I've been working all through college for this company, Con Ed. They are the utility company that serves all the boroughs of New York City. My department specifically deals with construction.